This is Paul Howard-Jones, and it's great to have you along with me today as I explore more connections between mind, brain and planet. You'll find links to research referred to in this podcast, images and ways to connect on social media on my website, mindbrainplanet.com. In today's podcast, I'll be asking, how might the way we access our food impact on how we think about sustainability? I'll be looking for an answer to this question in a supermarket where customers work as well as shop, in an abandoned World War II airfield in Berlin, and by exchanging gardening tips with Dr Felix Zoll, who's been carrying out some fascinating research in this area. But let's start in my local supermarket, because that's where I get most of my food. When I'm doing the weekly grocery shopping, I'm constantly looking at prices these days, yes, like a lot of us, and I'm trying to save money. But the other thing is convenience, because I can't really say food shopping is something I tremendously enjoy. So I'm trying to get this done as quickly as possible. Now, I need some onions.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Frankly, after 45 minutes in a very busy supermarket, if I was thinking about improving my shopping experience, I'd probably think about a home delivery, surely the most convenient way to shop. But here's the thing, does this modern and increasingly convenient way that we obtain our food impact on our attitudes about food and our relationship to the environment that produces that food? Maybe modern food shopping makes it just too easy to detach ourselves from the nature on which we depend. Take this potato, for example. I could have checked where it was grown, but I can't know how it was grown, who the farmer was, and what issues they faced when growing it, or how that's affected what it looks and tastes like, and how it got to the supermarket shelf. I mean, just think of all those decisions that somebody else has made on my behalf about what I'm eating for dinner. And if I know less about this potato, then I'm probably going to end up caring less about it and the natural environment that's produced it. So what might be the alternatives to this typical supermarket experience that I've just had? And how would those alternatives impact on how I might think about food and our planet? Well, since most of us worry about money when we shop, there's at least one recent innovation that might be worth looking at. This is the Too Good To Go app. Just key in your postcode, and immediately I discover which local restaurants, supermarkets and bakeries have got some food that I can pop round and collect later, so they don't have to throw it away, and I get it super cheap, about a third of the usual price, which is great. And since the rotting of food waste in landfill sites creates greenhouse gases, a food innovation like Too Good To Go is potentially good news for the environment as well as your pocket. Okay, all I need to do now is go and collect my food.
Hi, I ordered a surprise bag on the Too Good To Go app.
Yes.
And I pick it up here, do I?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is.
What do I show you?
Show me.
I just show you. Do I just show you the email?
Okay. You pay?
I think so. I think I've paid. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the stall owner is now just sort of loading up a bag randomly, what looks like randomly from the stall, but I assume that's this stuff that needs to be sold. Got some oranges, I've got some pears. Sweet potatoes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is this a popular thing? Do a lot of people do this?
Yeah, no.
No. Okay, thanks very much.
So I've come back laden with fruit and vegetables. Actually, the bag was so full that it burst. Melons, pears, oranges, tangerines, lemons, a cauliflower and 3 strangely shaped, I think, sweet potatoes. All in a wide range of conditions. I'm thinking maybe smoothie and soup, possibly? Amazing value, good for the environment, but is it bringing me closer to nature, encouraging me to be more thoughtful and involved with how my food is produced? Well, I'm not sure, really. I mean, actually, I feel I've lost a bit of control, to be honest, in the sense that I'm chiefly preoccupied now with trying to work out what I'm going to do with a rather random bag of shopping. So what other innovations are happening right now? I'm packing my bags for Germany, and I'm going to be talking to Dr Felix Zoll, someone who, with his team, has been looking at the impact of a range of different food innovations in Berlin and whether and how these are transforming the way that Berliners are thinking and living.
My name is Felix Zoll. I'm a researcher from Germany. I work at the Leibniz Center for Agricultural Research, Germany. In a current study, we looked at food-related social innovations in cities, or basically in our case study region in Berlin, Germany. In general, there are, of course, many issues in the current food system that have negative impacts, negative environmental, social, and economic impacts. And just to name some examples, more and more people are disconnected from agriculture and food production. Food chains are dominated by only a few players, which has negative impacts. And it also, of course, becomes more and more difficult to produce food for a growing world population due to climate change. And in the past, research and development was often focused on more technical solutions to solve problems. But I think it's also very important to think of social changes that can be implemented through innovation.
As one of their innovations for social change, Felix and his team did include the Too Good To Go app that I'd started using at home. After all, if it encourages us to source the excess food that's available rather than always shop for ingredients for our favourite recipe, well, maybe that's one way we might start thinking differently, by valuing more what food is already available rather than what we normally look for.
If we change social practices and values around food and appreciate food more, we can maybe reduce food losses and feed more people with the current production volumes, and do not have to increase agricultural productivity so much.
Another way to get consumers thinking about the food they consume might be to involve the customer more in the processes by which it's sold. Enter the cooperative supermarket. You might not think of shopping at a co-op to be terribly innovative, but I quickly got the impression that the co-op Felix was talking about was much more cooperative than the one you and I might immediately think of.
We all know the normal shopping experience. You go to the supermarket, look for your products, take them from the shelves, pay and go home. But in these cooperative supermarkets, people are involved. First of all, they buy a share of the supermarket, which already creates some sense of ownership, of course. And then they're also involved in the work at the supermarket, and every member contributes their own work.
Well, this I had to see. So I took the underground to Udenaderstrasse, where there's a co-op of the type that Felix included in his study.
Hello. Is this a supermarket that I can just buy things in normally?
It's a supermarket, but it's
Angela told me that to become a member of the super co-op and shop here, you need to make a one-off payment of around €100, but also commit to working here for at least 1 3-hour shift every month. When I asked her what motivated her to do that, she told me the prices are cheaper here because the co-op doesn't have to pay labour, but also quality is better because the people involved share a keen interest in the food that they're sourcing to sell. It's usually organic, local, and without additives. But also, she tells me, it's about the community, with people like her often spending more than 3 hours a month here because they enjoy just hanging out with their colleagues. I asked Felix how the participants in his research talked about their involvement with the super co-op. Was it similar to Angela's testimony?
Well, first of all, people are often unhappy with existing options. For example, they find their usual shopping experience too anonymous, or they don't want to support. In Germany, the market is dominated, as I already said, by few actors. They don't want to support those big corporations, and they want to find their own solution. This is one reason. And another reason is really that they're looking for social connections, for community, and they use food shopping as one possibility to build relations with other people.
So yes, Felix's research confirms what Angela was telling me. Sure, people are looking for alternative ways to access their food, but also, with this initiative anyway, it's the social aspects that are the big attraction. We're primates, after all, and that means we are social. Not so much in the sense that chimpanzees are social. It's not all about moving up the hierarchy. The reward centres of the human brain activate when we can share what interests us with others. That leads us to be social in the ways that marmosets and tamarins are social. We seek out collaboration with others to overcome the challenges in life. Indeed, that motivation to work as a team may have been critical in the survival of the human species thus far, so no surprise to find it may be playing a role in food innovations and sustainability more broadly. A few miles away, there's an old abandoned airfield that local people have been repurposing. There are some really lovely community gardens here. Some of their design and the reuse of materials is really creative, and it lends the whole place a rather eccentric feel. Flowers and vegetables are mostly being grown in raised beds and containers with soil in them because you can't dig into the ground here due to the risk of unexploded bombs from the Second World War. The past never seems far away in Berlin. In fact, the field I'm standing in was where over 1 million people gathered to hear Hitler speak at the Nazi rally of May 1933 under huge swastika banners, cheering for a national awakening. I can't imagine a greater contrast to what's here now, just a gorgeously peaceful and spacious place to escape to. Even though it's almost in the middle of the city, you can have your own little nook where you might be growing a few veg, or sitting quietly under some shade, sipping a beer amongst the flowers and listening to the birds and bees around you.
Is it your garden?
It's a community garden.
So does that mean that anybody can garden here?
Anybody can join.
Katerina told me that the different areas of the gardens were organised by different groups with different ways of going about things, different politics, she says. So she can't speak for them, but her group was meeting once a month and anybody could join. She was growing flowers and also potatoes because she'd discovered that tomatoes and fruit would often disappear before she'd had a chance to eat them. It's nice to share, she tells me, but people would come along with big bags and just load up when she wasn't around. Katerina liked coming to her garden as often as she could from her apartment in Berlin, where she sometimes found that things were just too much. This is the place that she could come to escape, she tells me. But what about the effects of these initiatives on the mind, on how we think and feel about our planet? Do they all impact on us in the same way? And what does that tell us about how the way we access our food influences our attitudes to sustainability?
In community gardens, we found most changes because for some people it was really the first time that they were actively gardening. They realized what it means to grow food, how much effort it is, how much time it takes. Yeah, they had a higher appreciation for food, but also through all of these community processes, community gardens are highly democratic. They said, okay, we really had to discuss a lot how we design the garden, how we organize ourselves. That led to a lot of changes. They got to know new people, so there were really different levels of changes regarding different topics. In the cooperative supermarkets, the changes were a bit more limited. It was really about making these social connections and also within this community, because the people who shop there or who become members, they usually don't live so far away. These exchanges or discourses, conversations happening at the supermarkets, they sometimes led to also different ways of thinking in terms of sustainability or the food system. And in the participants that used this food saving app, they reported the least changes because it was more of an individual activity and has more of a spontaneous character. Like you check the app, okay, what kind of food is available, and then they spontaneously go there to pick it up. So there's not so much interaction. The more community activities are involved, the more social exchange is involved, um, the more changes you also get.
I asked Felix whether, if everyone grew a few potatoes, whether that would be a world that thought more sustainably.
I think it could be, yeah. I can't really, from the research results that I have, I can't really say that. So this is more of a personal opinion.
Sure.
But I think it would help because, yeah, also from other examples of such initiatives, for example, we also did research on self-harvest gardens where people rent a little plot, or community-supported agriculture where people finance a farmer, like the farm operations of a farm, but can also visit the farm, can get involved in production. We had similar results. So yeah, there are several indicators that this might work. The question is just how can we get many people involved?
And I really hope more people do get involved, because these are all sound great initiatives. But what I'm beginning to grasp is how important their social aspect is in terms of the impact on the minds of those involved. The social interactions help draw people in. It's a key part of the motivation for getting involved. But they also provide a platform for learning and transformation. The greater learning occurred in the more social initiatives, such as the community gardens, suggesting our primate sociality, our human motivation to collaborate, is the important ingredient that helps tweak our neural networks and can make us more aware of the meaning of food. Felix told me that it was in the community gardens that some of his participants were changing their behaviour in a way more oriented towards sustainability. It was this initiative that seemed most powerful in terms of people learning from each other and in ways that benefit environmental attitudes and understanding. Of the three innovations that Felix looked at, the community garden was probably the most challenging approach to putting food on the table, but its social nature was impacting hearts and minds. The social experience of sharing the growing of food can lead to changes in how we think and behave, and in ways that benefit our planet. Just before I left, I asked Felix whether he had any experience as a community gardener himself, and his eyes lit up.
Yeah, actually, I have a plot there too.
Ah, you didn't
I
tell
have
me that.
my own plot there. Yeah. First of all, I find it very satisfying to just see plants grow. You care for them, and you see the progress they make. And I grew up in the countryside. When my grandparents had a little bit of agriculture, and so I was always a bit connected to food production and to gardening. And you can try out growing things that are maybe more difficult to find in the supermarket, because there you often have the 5 same vegetables, and there you have the possibility to grow maybe different herbs or some other berries that you can't really get in the market. It's again a question of how much ends up at your home and how much is eaten by other people beforehand. But yeah, it's also just with this particular garden, I find it's a really nice green space, and in the city, really a recreational area and some sort of DIY oasis of nature. So I have two berry bushes. One is currant, one is black currant. They grow very well, and then several herbs they grow very well, such as peppermint and sage. And everything else is a bit difficult because we have a tree right in front of the plot. So vegetables, they don't grow so well because it's a bit in the shade. Mostly I try different herbs because they are often not so well known, and then you get to keep more of them Whereas if you grow tomatoes, people are more often inclined to have a bite.
Oh, that's fascinating. I find leeks are quite good in the shade. I just offer that very humble... So, I know what you're thinking. Just a couple of guys talking about vegetables. But maybe this is an example of the type of conversation that can motivate, inform, and perhaps even transform its participants a little closer to appreciating that relationship between our food and the environment on which it depends. Thanks for listening. This has been Paul Howard-Jones exploring connections between mind, brain and planet. You'll find links to research referred to in this podcast, images and ways to connect on social media on my website, mindbrainplanet.com.